Hello again. Now today is going to be slightly different. I have a cup of tea, but I also have a glass of gin, only a small one, but still. It still tastes divine. And it's different because I'm starting today to go through some of the stationery and the pens and so on that Drew sent me last week, which I looked at. And what I'm going to look at today is from the Goulet Pen Company, a Goulet notebook with Tomoe River paper, which is 32 sheets, 64 pages of 68 GSM paper. That's what I'm going to be writing in. And what I'm going to be doing is using 1.1 stub TWSBI GOs because they're so much faster and easier to fill with ink. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the nib on this, because this one that Drew sent me is a fine nib, and what I'm going to do is change it over to a 1.1 stub like the others, because I thought it would be useful to show people just how you change the nibs on these things. So let's get going. First of all, let's get my replacement nib. Those of you who know my videos and know my dog will know that this sad pen was discovered by my hound a little while ago, and it is now Sad Bits of Pen. However, the nib is perfectly alright. So, how on earth do you get these delightfully produced nibs out of their fixings? Well, what you do is you get hold and pull, and it is literally that easy. So there's the old bit of pen. Here's the pen that has the medium nib. Grab it and pull. I'll put this one back in here for safekeeping. Now there's only one thing you've got to notice when you put these nibs back in. Make sure that the nib is butted up to the edge there of its fixing, and then you push it in, but it doesn't go straight in. You have to just twist it and discover the direction that it wants to go in. There you go. All done on that one. It's interesting to note, I was once warned by Dante Del Vecchio, who is a delightful man who I hope to meet one day, but on the phone he guided me towards a YouTube video which I think was done by the Goulet company, and in it he said don't ever wash these bits, the black plastic feeds, under hot water, because they tend to be made of, I believe, ebonite, and the plastic will get slightly melted when you put it under hot water. So don't do it. I just had this amazing thought. I didn't have to take the nibs out, did I? All I had to do was unscrew the internals and... oh no, because I'd have to take that fixing off. Right, okay, so I did have to do that. That's good. That's a relief. Now, what I've got as a result of that little bit of work is a set of 3 delightful TWSBI GO pens. And of course, what they are all in sore need of is ink. So, what I'm going to do is fill them with some ink. One of them is going to get this delicious, beautiful Dutch Masters ink from Akkerman in Holland. I absolutely love this. Israel Zeeblauw. It is just a gorgeous colour, a sort of quite dark teal. But I haven't actually loaded it into a pen with a decent stub nib yet. This is going to be a first. So I thought I would load this into my grey barrelled, as you can see, grey barrelled TWSBI, and then I'll know which one's got this in. So, as always with these TWSBI GOs, you just push the plunger down and release it and it sucks ink up. As easy as that. It's just such a simple mechanism. These pens, I said when I first had one that they were ugly, and really there were many better pens around, including obviously my enormously expensive Viscontis and so on. But I have to admit, these pens are in my pocket all day every day just now. They are such a joy to fill and use. They're rapidly becoming some of my favourite pens, which I did not expect. Right, so that is my first ink. Next, I thought I would have to go with a good Diamine ink, and one of my favourite inks always is Prussian Blue. I think Prussian Blue works ever so well. Doesn't matter whether you're at business or at home, it's just a wonderful ink. So let's fill a pen with some Prussian Blue. It's a very full bottle of ink this, because I had some spare in an old bottle which I've put into here to top it up. And here we go. Again, so quick and easy to fill. These pens are just a joy. Now, I've got two blue inks. I don't want to get myself confused, but I do want to have another ink that's one that I rather like. And I think I'm going to use some Diamine China Blue, because I have it here and it seems to make sense because it's quite a light coloured ink. It's not as dark as the average. So let's try this. Certainly a damn sight lighter than Prussian Blue. Depress, put it in the ink. Another thing that's really good about these TWSBI GOs is you can put them into these small size bottles and they will still fill. They will still fill. God, I didn't even think I was a writer. Actually, probably wouldn't, no. Never mind. Right, okay, so 3 inks. Now, of course, what we need is some paper, which fortunately I've already got here. So let's try some of Goulet's favourite papers, because he does like Tomoe River. A wrapper there. And this Tomoe River paper is very nice. Very fine. Quite thin, but not as thin as their 52 GSM, which is hardly surprising. It's thicker. So there you go. Right. I think I'm going to use my China Blue first. So let's see how this goes. I never know if it's Diamine or Diamine. I think it's Diamine. Don't know. Diamine China Blue. Used in a 1.1 stub. TWSBI GO. I think GO always ought to have an exclamation mark after it. They didn't put it on these pens. It actually says GO just on the side there. Don't know if that shows up particularly well, but GO. It ought to have an exclamation mark. It would look so much better. Be even better if I hadn't just smudged that ink too. Trying in this lovely Goulet Pen Company. What do you call these things? Cahier, isn't it? Cahier pad. That does work extremely well. Now let's go to, we'll go to my favourite ink of the moment. And look at the difference in colour. That really is coming out quite green. I should let you know that this is not daylight. I'm using a couple of LED lamps above here, but there's also the daylight lamp that I use for my watercolours. So this should be a very pure light that you're getting here. So you should be seeing an accurate representation, hopefully, if my camera is working well. Now to try the Israel's Zeeblauw. Hang about. UW, that's right. UW. And then finally we have the old mainstay, the Prussian Blue. Right, so we've got one slight smudge there. Take that out on that line. This is a simple example of why it's a really good idea to get your daughters to do technical design at school, because it might mean that you too end up with a blotter that's just the right size for your desk. Anyway, that I think is really impressive, because there's no bleed through at all. You can see that there has been writing on the other side, but it certainly wouldn't deter me from writing on this side as well. That is, I think, extraordinary. It shows how good the quality of this paper is. I like the dot grids. I always have liked dot grid paper. As you can see, this has got some nice shading. In different parts it's a bit darker on the fatter section there, for example. Let's just get this, it's easier. It's a little bit darker there on the blue compared to the upper parts there. So a nice shading on this. Absolutely no feathering or anything else on any of these three inks. We look at the Zeeblauw. I think that the shading is even better. Top of the E there has got quite pale, whereas the darker, the bottom stretches are always quite a bit darker. And it seems to dry out to a slightly bluer colour than the original green. And this, the China Blue, is just a lovely colour. It has got shading again, although not as much as I'd have expected actually. But that's just possibly a factor of the nib putting down such a fat line of ink all the time. But here you can see it's quite pale on the upstroke, and then the downstroke is much darker. So there you have it. My first test of the stationery from Drew. Thanks again, Drew. Very grateful to you, sir. But oh, that's nice. A quick test of the heavier weight Tomoe River paper, 68 GSM instead of the other one I've got here, which is 52 GSM, which I'll be using as soon as I've filled up this. I actually have now about 130 different inks. So I'm going to be demonstrating the different colours, first of all on this, then on the next one, generally just to show the variation in colour that you get, but also so that I can use all the different colours and see how they turn out. I really like this paper, very, very impressed. My first test of a Goulet Pen Company cahier, and that is very impressive paper, really, really nice quality. No bleed through, no feathering, and it's perfectly usable both sides of the sheet. So that says a lot about the paper. Also, I am just over the moon with these pens. The first one I really enjoyed until the dog ate it. Thank you, Hound. The second one I have been using very regularly, and now these other two are always in my pocket. Really nice pens, very practical, just superb bits of design. So I hope that was fun, I hope that was enjoyable. Do let me know if there's other inks you'd like me to try. I obviously have not just Diamine, I've got the Iroshizukus, I've got Watermans, I've got Edelstein. So there's quite a few inks for me to try out for you. But for now, thanks for watching. If you like that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it, hit the bell if you want to be notified of other videos coming through, and don't forget to put your comments in at the bottom. And that's all for now. Right, I was going to grab my cup of tea, but I've got gin. Cheers.